Greetings friends, Chris here from Woodsman Spirit channel. Have you ever wanted to buy a new bushcraft axe, or had an axe which you're far from satisfied with? Nowadays good quality axes are not necessarily budget friendly, although it's a good investment. For example, if you've got an axe of similar quality to this Wesseling's outdoor backcountry axe, you'd be probably looking today's prices of $240 plus shipping and packaging. So by the time you're done, you're probably almost spending $300. And as I said, it may well be that you see it as a once in a lifetime investment. Or if that kind of axe is not the kind of axe you're looking for, you want a larger axe, you may have one like this, which probably costs you $40 or $50 more. So it could be, with shipping and handling, could be well over $300. But do you need to spend this kind of money to end up with a good axe? Well, I would almost make an argument that you could probably end up an axe that better suits your needs for less money. Well, the question is, how would you do this? Well, for a lot of us, it's important to have the right length of handle on an axe, or right length of haft on an axe, combined with the right weight of head and the right geometry of the head to do the kind of task we wish it to do effectively. I mean, if you buy a cheap hardware store axe, then fair enough, you may grind it up a bit and it'll be somewhat of a compromise, but it may get the job done. But if you really get interested in the subject of bushcraft, woodcraft, or if you live in a forest like I do and use axes for several days a week for a variety of tasks, then sooner or later you're going to be looking for something, or perhaps several axes that suit different needs and perform the function better than try and do one axe fits all. So I'm going to show you how you may be able to do this at significantly less cost and with the basic skills. Learn more about axes in the process of creating your favourite axe. So affordability is one thing, but as I mentioned earlier, it's not just about affordability. It's the axe you have might not fulfill your needs for whether it's bushcraft or as a camp axe or whatever. So yes, you can always tune an axe up, but if you want an axe that splits, it's probably going to be very difficult to take purely a felling axe and make it into a good splitter. So there's a variety of concerns or needs that aren't being met by whatever axe you might be spending your money on. I made some axes based on my inquiry about how well axes work and how I might improve them. I wanted to experiment a lot with axes and hatchets that can split well, but also axes that have a thicker profile that are also capable of chopping. And a number of years ago I came across some old axe heads called JB Stoller, such as this. Well, you look at these and they look like they've been ground down to nothing, but that's pretty much the original configuration. And this one's about 3¼ pound, probably made in the 19th century. And the idea behind this, and why I made it to fill the gap in, as it were, is it's a nice wedge profile. And just for a bit of a joke, or I'll just put this on a 32-inch Cranford Sprooks felling axe, American felling axe handle. Needs tapering down, but that's one thing that I'll go into more detail about later. Even more of a anomaly of an axe is this little JB Stoller here. I just wondered how far I could push a small axe to perform heavy tasks above its own weight. And it's exactly the same configuration as a big one, but it's only half the weight. It's about 1.5 pounds. Again, just for the sake of it, I had a spare SA Wetterling handle off a Hudson Bay axe. So I think I picked the head up for about 40 or 50 bucks, and then mounted it on this what is somewhat long handle. So this, I think it's a 24 or 26 inch. So it's longer than your average bushcraft axe. But the result has been quite astounding. It not only does it split quite well for a small axe, it also chops very aggressively, as does the bigger version. Anyway, to get back to the key point of today is, if you have an idea that something's not right with your axe, or there's some particular kind of axe missing from your collection or repertoire of axes, make a note of what it is you don't like about it or what it isn't able to do, and start looking around. Look for things like, for example, the thickness of the blade, or the shape, or the weight of the head. I got this one most recently. This is, I don't know if any of you know these. This is an old SA Wetterling. I believe it's called a Wearer model, and it's probably made in the 50s or 60s. Some people call it a forest axe. It's on a rather beat up, what looks like an old hickory, probably self-made handle of 21 inches long, which again is, oh, no, 22 I think. So it's a similar size to the Granford Brooks small forest axe handle. The big difference being, though, is this is a lot heavier head. I don't know exactly what the head alone weighs, but I'm sure it weighs over 2 pounds. So I want to make an axe that is essentially a bushcraft axe.
Okay, here's the SA Wetterlings EX, which stands for X-Style, excellent steel. I did mention before that I would be removing this handle. I mean, it's nothing too wrong with it, but because of the weight of the head, which when I took it off weighs 2.39 pounds, almost, well, just short of 2.5 pounds. Looks like it's probably hickory. It doesn't have a palm swell on this end, so if you want to work with an axe with a shorter handle without a palm swell on, it's not always the best thing to do. So what I did was I drilled out the handle. As you can see, it had a aluminium wedge in there, unusual. I'd had to drill it around the side of it, and so it loosens from the pole and pull it out, or knock it out actually. So I'm probably going to replace this with a 23-inch handle with a handmade one. I think I'm going to use ash. I've used ash for many years and I don't have any issues with it whatsoever. Yeah, I mean, the head's in pretty good condition. I mean, there's some evidence of someone knocking it off a previous hafting there. There's a few little dents on there, I don't know what they're about, but also there's no burring over here, which very important that if you have burring around here, or more so burring around here, when you drive the axe head onto the new haft, it tears it up and doesn't make the best tight fit that you're looking for. So I've written on there, I like to keep a record of what my axes weigh, so that if I do any videos about showing the chopping efficiency of axes, I like people to know what we're talking about in terms of weight, axe haft, and of course blade profile. Now this is a fairly slim blade profile, but it's not as, it's not like a Granford Brook small forest axe. It's heftier than that. There's a fair amount of weight behind the pole, which is a good thing for stable chopping. It has had a reasonably good grind on at some time. You can probably just see there's not really a defined edge on there, but nevertheless it's fairly sharp now, chops well, but it'll chop a lot better when I've reworked it. So yeah, again, it's an old Wettlings EX, which stands for X-Style. I did find out what the model was. I mean, you can just see Wettlings on there. It's very faint. But I particularly like these almost triangular shaped ears on here, and if someone doesn't know what they're for, so when you're working with your axe, if if you're levering it that way to split the wood, and you have a straight line across the pole, it's much easier to break an axe haft. Whereas if you have rounded, or there's lots of different configurations particularly in old Swedish axes, but if you have a rounded or a pointed ears like this, it's much stronger. Not that I'm a huge advocate of using an axe this size for splitting open or prying open big rounds. So yeah, that's just an update to where I am with it. I've got a blank of ash, which I will work up by hand to make a decent handle for this.
So this is the key tool I use when doing axe hafts, and I've about 4 or 5 of these, which came handed down for the generations in my family. It's a spoke shave. This one's not quite sure what kind of hardwood it is, but you have to make these blades razor sharp. You just grind them flat on a stone under here, and it's a very pleasurable thing doing, actually, because you can take a small amount off and you end up with a very well presented haft when you're finished. And to take the blades out, you just tap these pins in, and they're like a interference fit, I think is the right name for it. So that's what I use. Sometimes use a coarse file or a rasp, and on the thicker parts of the haft and the under where the palm swell is, I use to contour it. I use a flap wheel on an angle grinder. Okay, so I'm just going to drive in that wedge now. So here I have the SA Wetterling X-Style 2.39 pounds, so it's almost 2.5 pounds head, mounted on a totally handmade ash shaft. So this isn't pre-bought, I made it from just a 4x2 of ash. I didn't use a vise or anything, I just used a spoke shave, files, and on the thicker pieces I used a angle grinder with a flat flap wheel, should I say. Cut the slot for the kerf, so it's about 2/3 of the depth of here. You don't want to go too low because it in essence might weaken the shaft if you're levering on it. It's important also to leave a little bit of a gap around here, because otherwise your wedge isn't going to go in far and splay out the top end of the haft. So to complete the project, I also handmade this hickory wedge. I think it's hickory, maybe ash, but it's hardwood anyway. And I made it deliberately slim because a lot of shop bought wedges are too thick and they don't go down into the kerf very far. And because of the steep angle, they tend to want to pop out unless you glue them in. And you know what I say previously, I think good axe husbandry or axe head installation is about mastering the skills to a high standard without having to glue things in, because gluing was never a part of the old axes anyway. And yeah, so this should go in probably about 1.5 inches, I'm guessing, which is about perfect. You see there, it's holding it fairly tight. I'm just going to smack that in and show you what it looks like when it's driven home as far as I can go with this wedge. So I'm going to put the thicker part to the back of the kerf because that's where it has to expand most. There you go. Yeah, okay, so I'm just going to drive it in with this old rawhide mallet, which I think is a good thing. It doesn't tend to split the wedges like a hammer does. So that you should be able to start to see the haft that stands above the pole begin to flare out a little bit. When it's like that, it's not going to pull out. And as far as I can drive it in with this light mallet. So very, very tight. So here's the Wetterlings EX 2.4 pound that I made into a Bushcraft Axe or all-round axe for my purposes. It's as you know, it's a hand-carved ash handle. I made it to a shape that suits my ergonomics. It handles very well. Nice tight fit. Just needs final finishing on the edge, but it's still already fairly sharp. So I'm quite pleased with it. You can see the profile there. I like to put the weight of the head on the end of the haft and stamp my name on there as well. So I'm proud of my work. There's the EX logo. And there's the Wetterlings stamp, which is quite worn down, but you can still read it. Okay. And I've field tested it to a degree. It works pretty good. there you go. That's taking this axe way above the limit. It still splits. That's yellow birch, very hard. Okay, chopping test. Well, that concludes my video on building a custom axe in the attempt to make a perfect bushcraft axe, and more than pleased with its performance. I could still do with a bit more work on the edge, but it performs. I think it needs a little bit more edge to square logs down so it bites and shaves more easily. But in terms of splitting and chopping, it's you know, the heavy head and the moderate length handle is a good combination, and the steel is very good. Thanks for watching. Please comment and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.